Last month, President Trump teased, quote, the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history, set to be unveiled in the new year. NEC Director Kevin Hassett also saying last week that cabinet officials would soon be meeting with the president to pitch housing proposals. This amid a larger push that the administration has to tackle affordability concerns. Higher home prices, definitely part of that story. Joining us now is Brown Harris Stevens CEO Bess Freedman. Brown Harris Stevens serves several real estate markets around the country, including New York City, Connecticut, and Florida. Bess, it's great to have you. What is happening with prices broadly right now?
Well, thank you for having me and Happy New Year. I think, prices have been pretty flat this year. And you mentioned the affordability issue. That remains a real challenge in the United States. The average first-time home buyer today is 40 years old. And so people have been priced out of the market. They can't afford to buy a new home, their first-time home. And, rates have, it seems like they're going to settle around 6%, the 30-year. So I think, slowly, if we can get more inventory into the market, and we can start to have good legislation to build more affordable housing, that will help, but it's going to take time.
I was just going to ask, what would you advise the administration to do to increase the supply to get prices more affordable?
I mean, look, real estate is so local, and the city has to work, with the state together to create smart legislation. So the city council, for example, in New York, needs to work with the community to enact things like the City of Yes, to build. That's going to give us 82,000 more units in New York, which is really important. So we need to have smart legislation, upzoning, building, and incentivize people to want to build. And so that's the way that you get more housing in the United States. And also income. People have to be able to afford to buy a home. And so wages, all those things have to be addressed. We have to invest in education and think about all the things that matter to everyday people who want to buy their first time home.
So, we're going to ask about New York. We have a new mayor, Mamdani, and there were questions about whether the housing market would dip after he got elected. Have you seen anything, and do you expect something to happen given some of his socialist policies that we've seen implemented in places like San Francisco that did not have a great impact on their economies?
I mean, look, it's been a national story, and I think Mayor Mamdani has good intentions. This whole idea of a rent freeze, we've seen that really doesn't work. It's not a long-term solution. First of all, it's only 25% of New York City, so it really wouldn't work. And it typically is implemented during war, like World War II or during the pandemic. So we need smart solutions. We need to build more affordable housing, not freeze the rent, so people disinvest from the units that they already have. And so I hope for the best with Mamdani. I think that he means well, but he has to create solutions that are going to make sense.
I want to talk about a market that just sees higher and higher prices all the time, where all the rich people are, Palm Beach. I mean, does that just keep going and going and going, Bess?
I mean, look, I just read an article that in 2025, there were 10 deals, residential deals over $100 million. And one of them was in Palm Beach. And that market, I was just in Palm Beach. It is growing, and people want to be there. There's something special about it. But it's limited in what you can build. And the houses there, they keep going up because it's such a limited supply. And so, yes, it's a different market than the rest of the country because it's discretionary for the most part, and it's very expensive.
So it does raise a larger question about migration, which has driven a lot of the real estate trends, right, into places like Palm Beach, southern Florida, Austin, Texas, out of New York. Is that phenomenon still happening, and is that a big driver of prices and activity?
I mean, we haven't seen a mass like people leaving New York City in any stretch. During the pandemic, indeed, we saw people leave to go to places like Connecticut and to Florida and, as you said, Texas. But really, we haven't seen a huge glut of people leave. People do leave because they get new jobs, because they want to retire there. Those things happen, or they start businesses and they want to be in Florida. That happens. But there's not been sort of a mass exodus. Even when, up to the mayor's race, there was all this talk about people leaving New York. We didn't see any of that. In fact, people who had signed contracts continued to move forward and closed on the units that they were buying. So I think a lot of that was just hyperbole.
Yeah, I mean, good point. So The age-old question, which is better prospect now, buy or rent financially?
Well, look, you know, that saying, the rents are too damn high. It does feel like the rents are too damn high. In New York, you know, they've reached a pinnacle. They're so expensive. You know, people are sharing apartments. It's become unaffordable. And it's always better, in my opinion, and I'm not selling my book, but to buy, because it's forced savings. It's an investment in your future. It gives you shelter, you know, and so I always think it's better if you can buy. But look, first-time home buyers are now 40 years old, so we need to come up with new policies, better policies, so people can buy their first-time home.
Okay, Bess, really great insight. It's good to have you.
Happy
as we
New
kick
Year,
off
guys.
this year. Happy New Year.
you.
Really appreciate
Bye.
it.